Hey everyone, Ashley May, Mike Beer here with the Daily Racing Form. Taking a look at the Wednesday race of the day, we'll go out to Horseshoe, Indianapolis for one of their stakes races on the program. $150,000. It's the Too Much Coffee Handicap, a mile and a 16th here for the Indiana breds, 3-year-olds and upward. And it's a really big field, Mike, but overall, I thought it was pretty competitive. There's a lot of horses in here that I think they have a real shot of winning.
Yeah, it feels pretty well matched anyway. I mean, there's a little bit of filler in this race, I thought, but not that much. And you can see by the morning line, I mean, it's sort of a very well-matched field with no clear-cut favorite.
I think some of the filler comes from a lot of these Indiana breds maybe targeting turf races earlier this year and now being a little bit limited for those opportunities. So we'll take a look at the time form U.S. pace projection in terms of who could be involved early. And I thought the pace at least would be honest in here. Who's Your Daddy Now? Typically somewhat forward or either stalking the pace. That's sort of where this one's positioned early on, but it looks like the 6 Chocolate Mousse might be the speed coming out of the sprint races. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
The trip, I guess the pace will be important, actually, just because it is kind of a well-matched field. So trips will be pretty important here. We'll see who winds up getting a good one. There are horses stretching out in this race, so I guess there's at least a chance that the pace gets pretty competitive.
And the late pace flag is attached to the 3 Kingsbury Road, which we can dive into that a little bit more when we get to him in terms of going through the field. I don't know how far he'll be back. We'll talk about why. We'll kick it off here, though, with the Rail Runner, the 1 Chicory Blaze here. This one was second last time out. We'll actually go back to that replay. Now, this was a turf race. It was moved to the main track over a fast main track. Kind of looking at this performance, I think there's a lot to like from Chicory Blaze. He's a 3-year-old. He was tackling the olders, and it was a scratch down field, Mike, but he was still rolling late, just second best behind Runaway Rojo.
I mean, yeah, they're going to take on older horses again. So I guess that's one of the issues, but he's, clearly the upside horse in this race. Feels like he's getting better every time they send him out there. I thought he ran really well in this race, actually. But the pace, to be fair, I mean, the pace was pretty solid in that race. He sat back. He had a pretty good trip overall, but he ran, he moved forward again. He's got a great post position for this race. So it feels like he could fall into another really good trip here. I don't know how short a price I'd take on him, but he's pretty logical in here.
The 2 King Ice, 15-1 on the morning line. He's 0 for 4 in the money this year, but he's been in some tougher spots. 2 of them against non-Indiana breds. They tried him on the grass, even though his grass performances prior to that, they weren't that hot. So I think the only race you can really go back to is the 1-2 back, and I thought he had some issues in there.
Yeah, he just didn't break well in that race. 2 starts back, it was still a super disappointing performance because after the slow start, he was just terrible in there. I get the real question with him now as a 5-year-old, Ashley, is can he run anymore? Forget the turf race, but his 3 dirt starts so far this year, they just aren't good. The race 2 back is the one that's, I think, harder to make an excuse for because the first 2 dirt starts, he was just in way tougher races, I thought. And so I didn't want to be too hard on him for those. And then you start going back through his other races. I mean, as a 3-year-old, he was running races that would win here. Only 4 starts last year, but 2 of those races, both of the ones that he ran here at Indiana, they would make him really tough in this race. It's a real question of whether he can still run or not. But if he can win this race, and he's going to be a prize.
You mentioned his 3-year-old season. He won this race as a 3-year-old back in 2023 by nearly 7 lengths. The number 3, Kingsbury Road, we'll take a look at his most recent performance in the Empire Handicap, and we'll take a look at the start. Obviously, he was drawn towards the outside, Mike. He had problems from the gate. He's dead last in here, and that's sort of different than his other trips. Sometimes he can sit mid-pack, and obviously in terms of the pace, I don't know. I thought it was pretty even in terms of what you'd expect. Almost 24 to the half. I know it's 23-3, but 48, to the half. And the way he finishes here, I think he runs well. I think he would be, even closer to it had he, been more involved from the start.
Yeah, that's a very fair way to look at the race. It was another solid, we'll call it a solid effort for this horse. His races 2 and 3 back to 2 wins. I mean, I guess he ran well in those races too. Actually, they were both sloppy tracks, though. One of them was a 4-horse field in a race that was rained off the turf. So I don't really know how much credit I want to give him for those. I respect that he's in good form right now. I kind of felt like he'd have to improve again to win yet.
The 4, Who's Your Daddy Now, ended up finishing second in that race that we just showed, the Empire Handicap. And I wonder what to do with him. I almost prefer him just generally as a turf horse.
I kind of do too. He's one of the horses in here who I think you could make a case for, but that I just don't really like that much. His race 2 starts back, the off the turf race, I thought was okay because that pace was solid, but I didn't see a huge excuse for him in there. And the race last time, I just feel like if he was really good, maybe he would have won there, because we've already sort of talked about the pace. It was just kind of even. I thought he made a relatively easy lead in that race, and ultimately he just wasn't good enough. I just don't think I want to bet him back off of that performance.
The 5 Rich Kingdom, I think he's going to be a decent price in here, probably better than the morning line. The main reason being is he's coming out of races, Mike, that a lot of these horses exit, but they're always finishing in front of him. Look at all the dark bold in front of him in his races. I think for that sort of situation, the fact that we haven't seen him in the winner's circle since when? 2022, I can't play him.
Nah, you're right. I mean, 8 times in a row, he's run against the same horses he's run against here. He didn't win any of those races.
The 6 Chocolate Mousse we saw could be involved early. This one coming out of sprint races, and last time out completely failed as the favorite. Tried to roll from off of it, maybe a little further back than he prefers. But I feel like you look at him, he typically takes money, and look at his last 4 races. I just don't know if he's doing enough. Mind you, 2, 3, and 4 starts back, he wasn't against the Indiana Breds.
True. Yeah, I think that's a very. I'm glad you pointed that out, because it's kind of important. I thought he was so disappointing last time that it makes me not want to bet him in here. But I respect the fact that he's speed. Maybe he can make the lead in this race, and he does. He's been sprinting this year, but you go back last year, they sent him around 2 turns a few times, and he handled it really well. It didn't seem like he was distance challenged, so I think he can get this far. I just wonder what kind of form he's in, and I wonder if this is the right spot.
The 7 Highest Memories was able to deliver 2 starts back as the favorite. I thought it was a very good performance looking at the fractions and how this one was forward. And then last time out, you got value on Highest Memories. 20-1 was able to take the Empire Handicap. And I don't know how you assess this horse now stacking up against these horses. Obviously beat Who's Your Daddy Now and Kingsbury Road. But to do it again, I don't know if that's possible, making it 3 in a row, 2 stakes in a row. And then my other concern is the price. Are you going to get the value that you should want on him? I don't think you will.
Yeah, this time you won't. I think that's probably the right way to look at him. I mean, his recent form is actually really good. But last time was the time to have him when he pays over $40. And I know that he was moving up in class for that, but his prior 2 starts were both really good performances, and just suggested that he was headed the right way. And so if you believed in him at that time, you got paid in the race, last month or earlier this month. I don't think you're going to get paid again if you bet him back in this spot.
The 8 Commander Storm, we've only seen him around 2 turns a handful of times. Those performances I haven't really liked. Another one who, even in his sprint races this year, there's a couple of them, they're okay, but I'm just not enamored with those performances to think now, based on that and the fact that he's stretching out, that I like him here.
Yeah, he was the stretch out sprinter that I really couldn't get behind in this race.
The 9 CJ Storm was 4th last time out in the Empire Handicap. He was only 8-1 in there, and it's been a little bit of a mixed bag of apples, but generally he's had a good campaign, 3 wins. I know they're all at sprint distances. I think now wondering about him at a longer, kind of distance in here. Out of the big prices, Mike, he's probably one of the ones that you can maybe make a better case for, at least for a minor share.
You probably can. I still think he's better sprinting than he is routing, and so that really turns me off about him. I don't want to argue too hard against him at 20-1, because he ran fine in the Empire last time. Although I just thought he got a perfect trip in the Empire, and I thought the fact that he doesn't really want to go this far, I think it showed in that race. He was right there in the mix at the top of the stretch. I don't think he saw it out.
I keep on talking about the Empire because of all of these key horses exiting that race. Double Dog Justice is one of them. He's 10-1 on the morning line, but he went off favored in the Empire. And I thought he sort of had a troubled trip throughout. I mean, not the ideal position he wanted to be in early and check at one point. I'd be willing to forgive his last down. And I think if you go to the race 2 back, there's a lot to like about it. I know they went really quick, but he did look good in deep stretch.
Agree. I thought, the race 2 back, I think gives him a legit chance to win here. That's probably part of the reason, at least, why he was favored last time. Like you, I didn't think he got a very good trip in that race, and maybe had a little bit of an excuse. So I can see him rebounding here. I will wait and see what kind of price he is, because ultimately, I'm still at the point with this horse, actually, where I feel like he's got one race, the race 2 back, that makes me like him, and his other races really don't make me like him.
The 11 Follow the Money, 6-1 on the morning line. I think he's a little intriguing. He has some sneaky good races in here that the number might catch your eye. And we've seen other horses in this field that they can jump up to stakes competition out of, say, an allowance optional claimer or a claiming event against the state breds and still perform well. And he seemed to appreciate the time off after that bad performance 2 back. He looked pretty good gate to wire last out. Yeah,
he's shown also that he can win without the lead. So I don't think you have to look at him as a horse who wants to be on the front. I don't know. We'll see if he can handle this step back up in class here and run another good race. To me, he's almost impossible to bet off the win last time. over a sloppy truck where just got absolutely loose on the lead.
The 12 Runaway Rojo. Remember doing the preview here on the DRF YouTube page, and I didn't like him when it was on a turf race. I just didn't like it, and it obviously changed the complexion. He was able to win last time out in that $100,000 race. I think him staying on the dirt, there's obviously a lot to like about him. He absolutely loves it at Horseshoe Indianapolis, and maybe in comparison to others, Mike, he does get the right flow where he's not going to be too far off of it, but he certainly doesn't need the lead to win.
Yeah, I think all those things are true. He's a logical horse in here, and he's probably going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, at post time. I think he could win. He's another horse I don't think I'd be dying to take some kind of short price on him. I just think his form is okay and makes him a real contender in here, but I don't think it makes him a standout.
And the 13, 14, 15, and 16 are the also eligibles. And I do think, at least if you're going through this race after scratches, if any of them draw in, especially the 13 or the 14, Mike, they could potentially have something to say about the pace early on, as typically they're forward types.
Yeah, I think each of the first three AEs here could really factor in this race if any one of them gets into the race. So you do want to wait for scratches.
All right, this is the Wednesday race of the day. Don't forget, it's race number 9 at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Free pass performances on the DRF website. We'll move to our top selections for this race, and you can kind of see, we use some of the same horses in here, that being the 1 and the 12, but you ultimately go to a price horse on top, the number 2, King Ice.
Didn't trust the favorites enough to want to take any of them. So if I'm going to bet the race, I'm certainly not taking, any of those horses in here. Obviously, there are concerns with King Ice, and as we talked about, maybe he just can't run anymore. Maybe we won't see him too much again after this race. But if he can still run, he can win this race. He'll be a price. And I do expect there to be a little bit of pace in front of him here. So maybe he can come running late.
I think the rider change might be good as well. Obviously, the duo of Esquivel and Gennaro Garcia, very, very strong when they click together. So 2-1, 10-12 for Mike. I'll go to the 1 Chicory Blaze. I liked him last time out. Obviously, complexion change when it moved to the main track, but he's a 3-year-old. He's going to have to tackle the olders, but he's done very little wrong. So 1, 3, 12, 7 for me. Don't forget, it's race number 9 this Wednesday at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Best of luck.